So I listened to a podcast last night that is hosted by an author that I really, really love, Donald Miller, who wrote the book Building a Story Brand, which if you haven't read it before, then I really, really recommend that you do. It's a fantastic book for any business owner to read to make sure that you really are building a brand that your customers will love and that will resonate with them. Anyway, Donald Miller has a podcast, and last night I listened to the episode with Nir Ayal about how to actually stop distracting yourself at work and start focusing. And he said something that really stuck with me, and I'm probably not going to quote it word for word exactly right, but it was along the lines of whatever you plan to do with your time is fine as long as you have intended to do that thing with that time. So rather than rather than demonizing activities like being on your phone or watching football or video gaming, rather than demonizing those things and saying that the only way to be productive and focused at work is to turn off email, is to turn off all distractions, the radio, the TV, and just focus, which isn't always possible because, you know, if you're anything like me, you run most of your business off of your phone and off of your email. It's not always possible to do that. So you can't always turn off all of those distractions, but it's about being really intentional with the tasks that you set yourself in the day, being really focused with that time and deciding what you're going to do with that time. And if you find yourself being distracted, then being able to recognize that and turning that distraction into traction. Turning that distraction into actually something that you recognize as not productive, not helpful, and then going back to the task at hand that is going to get you what you want, is going to help you move your business forward. And being intentional with our time, being intentional with your time is really what this video is all about, because I know that Instagram is a big, big time suck. And so often it's because we open up Instagram and we aren't being intentional with the way that we're using it. And that's because for a lot of us, even though we are business owners wanting to use Instagram to support and grow our business and find new customers and clients, we also enjoy using Instagram as everyday users that enjoys surfing Instagram in the way that our customers do, being inspired by other people, discovering new brands and services, being educated, being made to laugh. And so really defining the way that we spend our time on Instagram, which is spending it as a business owner and being really productive and intentional versus spending our time as an everyday civilian just browsing and falling into a bit of a scroll hole. Defining that is really, really important. And so in this video, I'm going to give you some tips about how to be really intentional with your time on Instagram as a business owner and how to stop wasting your time on the app. Because I know if you're honest with yourself, you're probably spending a huge amount of time every single day on Instagram, and you're sat there wondering how you don't have more to show for it, how you are not making 5 figures already a month through Instagram, how you're not having clients and customers banging down your door when you're spending so much time on Instagram. And I'm willing to bet it's because you're spending a lot of time, as we are all prone to do, just scrolling and being distracted by other people and falling into the comparisonitis trap rather than using your time really, really intentionally. If you're new around here, hi, I'm Bella Foxwell. I'm an Instagram strategist and coach that drops a brand new video all about Instagram marketing every single week. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your ongoing support. And if you are new, don't forget to hit the subscribe and bell button so you never miss a new video when it goes live every single week. Now, the 2 key things you need to be focusing on if you are using Instagram to grow or support your business is number 1, creating great quality content, and number 2, nurturing leads. Now, I hate to say it, but these 2 things don't happen by accident. And when you leave these 2 things up to an ad hoc approach, i.e. you're kind of figuring them out on a day by day or week by week basis, that is when you get into the horrible cycle of frantically figuring out what to post, scrambling to create graphics or scrambling to take photos, then looking at what everybody else is doing, then getting in your own head about the caption you're writing or the content you're creating, then comparing yourself to everybody else, then sharing stuff that you don't feel fully confident with. And that is not good for our business and it's not good for our mental health. And so really, first and foremost, you need to have a strategy. You don't want or need to be everywhere. And when I say that, I mean you don't need to be on Instagram Live, on IGTV, on Instagram Reels, and on Instagram Stories, and doing main feed posting. Really sit down and actually think about what is going to serve value to your audience, your potential customers, and what is manageable and feels good for you to create on a consistent basis. I'm talking about thinking beyond just content themes or content pillars. This is a great start, but I actually want you to sit down and think, right, what kind of content am I going to create that is going to move people through my sales funnel? Yes, it's a good start to have those themes and those pillars that you can create content around, but then it's thinking about how that is going to look. What formats are you going to choose, and how are you actually going to create content that builds relationships, that proves your authority, and that moves people closer to a sale? If you want to know anything more about my strategy for creating content that aligns to a sales funnel, then check out the video I'm linking to above my head after this one. Now, the next thing that follows on naturally from thinking about your strategy is implementing that strategy by planning your content. Make an appointment with yourself, or a couple of appointments with yourself. And by that, I mean literally put a diary invite in whichever digital calendar you use so that you won't forget about it, you won't push it to the bottom of your written to-do list, and you'll actually be reminded of when you need to sit down and plan that content. It's really, really important that you do this and you get into a good rhythm of planning your content ahead of time, even if it's by a week. I recommend doing at least 2 to 3 weeks planning content ahead of time to get ahead of yourself, to never feel like you're chasing your tail with your content planning and creation, and to actually be able to put content out there consistently and then monitor the results. So content planning for me, that looks like once or twice a month, sitting down, planning out the specific ideas that I am going to turn into actual posts, making a note of the graphics I need to design in Canva or the photos I need to either find or take if I haven't got them already, writing rough captions, and then dropping those rough plans and rough ideas into the scheduler of choice that I use, which is Later. And then what I do on a week-by-week basis is I go in, I polish those roughly written captions, I make sure that I add in the right hashtags, and then I either create the graphics that I need to create or I find the image that I have planned to share with that post. So on a week-by-week basis, I refine the posts that I have already planned ahead of time for the month or for the forthcoming 2 weeks. And you might want to take that approach. You might want to plan your content in batches. So if you know that your best work is done in those batches, so you know that you can sit down and batch write all the captions, sit down, batch plan all the ideas, sit down, batch create all the graphics, then do that. And again, put appointments in your diary so that you know the time and the day that when you're going to do those things. My next piece of advice is to remember why you're using Instagram. Be intentional about lead nurturing. That means starting conversations with people on Instagram that look like your ideal customers and clients, and then keeping a track of those conversations somewhere so that you can check in on them regularly and keep those conversations going and keep those relationships building and blossoming. Now, I really recommend you use an Excel spreadsheet to do this, to keep a track of all the people that you're having conversations with, making a note of people that have raised their hand, i.e. have opted in for your offer or your lead magnet or your free webinar, whatever it is. Making a note of people that are warm leads, hot leads, who you've been having good conversations with, perhaps the people that you have actually helped and given advice to related to whatever service or product you're selling. Make a note of those people, those Instagram handles in an Excel spreadsheet, and that way you won't lose track of anybody and you won't lose the thread of a conversation that you were having that could well turn into a sales conversation. It's really hard to keep a track of all these conversations actually inside your Instagram DMs. The filtering options and the organizational ability of the DM inbox is rubbish. So while you are having those conversations inside the DMs, definitely keep a track of those conversations somewhere else, like an Excel spreadsheet. Be wary about how much time you are spending talking to your peers and people that are your competitors or your indirect competitors on Instagram. While it's great to build a network on Instagram and look for people that you could collaborate with and also just have people that get what it is that you're doing and have that camaraderie with, they are not the people that are going to be buying from you. You want to be spending more of your time actually having conversations with people that could turn into customers and clients. So really check in with yourself when you are opening up your Instagram app. Why are you on the Instagram app? Who are you trying to have conversations with, and who should you be having conversations with? Now, I know that Instagram itself has the ability, has the app within it to see how much time you're spending on Instagram every single day. That is really illuminating. It can be quite scary as well to see just how much time we're spending on Instagram. I know that if you are really honest with yourself, you probably know that you're spending way more time than you should be on Instagram. And again, if you're honest with yourself, you're probably spending the majority of that time doing tasks that are not moving the needle for your business, i.e., you're either not creating great quality content in that time, or you're not nurturing leads like you could be in that time. It's really important that when you open up your Instagram app, you know what it is that you're doing on the app. Like I said, you're either going in there to check your insights and to make a note of the results of your recent 30 days of content or your recent 14 days of Instagram stories, or you're opening up the app to reply to some comments and some DMs, and then you're going to add those handles and those conversations into your Excel spreadsheet, or you're opening up Instagram to actually spend 30 minutes going and having conversations with people, finding new accounts that aren't following you yet that look like they could be your customers or clients, and you're starting conversations with them. Those tasks are all very intentional, very productive, and they are going to actually bring you in results. Finally, use tools and apps to help you where necessary. For me, I love Google Cal, my Google Calendar, where I used to have a written to-do list. I don't anymore. I use Google Calendar to make appointments with myself. And those appointments include lead generation appointments. So every other day, I'm reminded to go in and follow up with conversations I'm having with people, start new conversations, keep a track of the leads in my Excel spreadsheet. And I have appointments in there to batch, plan, and create content a few times a month. So that's another tool that I love. The tools I love as well are Canva for creating amazing graphics, Later, as I mentioned, for scheduling content, Google Sheets for planning ideas, as well as a pen and paper for just brainstorming ideas. But you will find tools that work for you, whether they are other scheduling tools like Plannerly or Preview, or whether they are apps like Notion or Asana that help you plan your ideas and organize all your activities on Instagram into one unified, integrated place. That's all for this week's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit the subscribe and bell button so you never miss a new video when it drops every single week. Don't forget that I've linked to loads of free resources, videos like this, as well as my free guide, which helps you plan a month worth of Instagram stories. It has prompts and scripts. It's an amazing free guide. You can get that in the description box below. I'll see you next week for a brand new video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.